The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of bad. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Perfect podcast coming to you February 7th, 2024. Looking forward to this one because for first time in a while, I get to not talk sports for a little bit. My man Matthew Allen, music journalist, here with us. Matthew, it's been a couple of years to be on the show, man. How you doing? First time on video for the record, though, on the show.
Yes, indeed. I'm so glad to be back, Ernest. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man. The last time you were on the show, I think was pre-COVID. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. We got to talk a little bit about. I mean, it might have been pre-COVID or just as COVID was happening. I know that we talked a lot about the Invincible. MJ's Invincible. We had a conversation about that.
Right. Yeah. And this is actually your third time on the show, actually, though. Third time, actually.
Yes.
So, yeah, glad to have you back here. Got a lot to talk about on the show. I want to talk about the Grammys. I want to talk about Taylor Swift and Beyoncé. I want to talk about MJ, of course, the biopic is taking shape. And other knick-knack things. I just want to review also the documentary that came on Netflix 2 weeks ago, The Greatest Night in Pop.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. We'll discuss all that, all the spurs, all that. Grammys, though.
Yeah.
And Matt, I gotta be honest with you. I'm not someone that's a big Grammys guy these days. To be honest, I say these days. It's been quite a while since I watched an entire telecast. I will say at least 15, 20 years. But I will say, coming out of it, and I didn't watch it. I watched the highlights. Lots of interesting banter and thoughts about things that, like, at least deserve a conversation. You know what I mean? You had Killer Mike get arrested, which is weird in itself.
Yeah.
What dude wins 3 Grammys? He wins 3 Grammys and gets arrested. You mean tell me they can hold a misdemeanor charge until after the damn ceremony?
Yeah, that was definitely strange. I remember seeing the clip of him sweeping the rap categories. He won best rap song, best rap performance, and he won best rap album for Michael. And next thing you know, on Twitter, he's being led away in handcuffs. It's like, what? But apparently there's some sort of alleged dust up or altercation with him and some security that happened backstage following his 3rd Grammy win. So I'm still trying to get a hold of what's going on in terms of why that happened. But I actually am more concerned about the fact that no rap categories were on the telecast.
Yeah, that was bothersome.
Yeah, I mean,
very bothersome.
I mean, I do watch the Grammys. I mean, I don't expect much from the Grammys. I watch it purely for entertainment purposes. I'll say this. You're familiar with the movie Training Day?
Training Day? Of course.
Yeah.
Come on.
So when Alonzo first meets Jake,
right?
Jake keeps interrupting him. And he goes, "You see this thing? It's a newspaper. It's 90% bullshit, but it entertains me. That's why I read it."
Yes.
That's why I watch the Grammys.
That's a great analogy.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I get it. It's politics. It's a popularity contest. They seldom get it right, but it entertains me. You know, I like the juxtaposition of different artists working together on stage, and the spectacle of it. And so that's why I watch the Grammys every year, because it's a spectacle, not because it has artistic merit.
I feel like artists, though, cater too much. Like, they want to be accepted. They cater to be accepted by the Grammys when there's so many great acts through the years that have never won a Grammy before, or if not won, maybe 1 or 2 Grammys.
Yeah.
A band like Queen, top 10 selling art act in history of music, hasn't won 1 fucking Grammy.
It's my number one. They're my number one rock and roll band. Queen.
Number 3 for act of all time, period.
Yeah.
So we're in the same boat right there. Rush, I think, still hasn't won a Grammy yet. Jimi Hendrix, now granted, short career, but still, a guy like him, never won a Grammy. You got a lot of huge names that either never won a Grammy or have barely scratched the surface of winning maybe multiple.
Yeah.
And these artists are still so like hell bent on acceptance from this committee. Like, who cares?
Here's the thing about that though, Ernest.
Okay.
It's not necessarily it's not just about the acceptance or purely about the acceptance. When you win a Grammy, or if you even get nominated for a Grammy, or particularly when you win a Grammy, a few things happen. Number one, you get an uptick of your now streams. Back when I was in college, there was a Grammy effect. The week after the telecast, you would see an uptick of sales on the Billboard charts for people who performed on the Grammys and people who won multiple Grammys.
Right.
Now it'd be an uptick of streams that happens after the Grammys.
Right.
I'm sure Luke Combs got an uptick of streams for Fast Car after the Grammys happened.
Amazing performance for those two.
Oh yeah. And just a sidebar, if they're smart, they will take that version that they performed as a duet and then make a formal release of it.
And for the record, for the listeners of the podcast, we're talking about Tracy Chapman and Luke Combs' performance of a Fast Car.
Yeah.
So phenomenal.
Absolutely needs to be formally released as a single. But there's that. So there's a monetary thing. The other monetary thing is that when it comes to management and agents, when they're doing negotiations for contracts for festivals and for marquees, for when it comes to being headliners and doing appearances, that's an extra little zero that they get to add on when it comes to negotiating. It's like, I'm a Grammy award-winning artist, so yesterday's price is not today's price. Now you have to pay me like a Grammy-winning artist. So because to those people, the Grammys still have clout. Yes, there are many more award shows that actually cater to the communities of the people who get snubbed. But things like the Grammys, things like the Oscars, things like the Golden Globes, things like the Emmys, they still hold, industry clout that when you get those sort of nominations and wins, it means something for your bottom line.
So you're trying to tell me the Grammys still matter, even though we don't, I choose not to care about it anymore.
The Grammy matters to the artists because, like I said, it means something for their bottom line. It means something for the respectability. It means something for the rhetoric when it comes to their legacy for people who are making those decisions. I mean, obviously, it doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. I mean, George Clinton got his first Grammy because of his association with To Pimp a Butterfly. Teddy Riley got his first Grammy because he engineered on the Dangerous album.
Yeah.
James Brown's got 3 Grammys, and he didn't. In the first one's a Lifetime Achievement Award. The first one was Pop's Got a Brand New Bag. The second one was Living in America. So
imagine James Brown, the Godfather of the Soul, has only 3 fucking Grammys. Imagine that.
It's 3 more than Diana Ross has. Diana Ross still has 0. She got nominated last year. And
that's my point, though. Diana Ross, the legend.
She got nominated. They had a chance to make it right last year because she did a song with Tame Impala that actually is really good. That on a animated soundtrack last year that was nominated for a Grammy. They had a chance to make it right, and they didn't do it. Snoop Dogg, he's got like 14 nominations and no wins. Busta Rhymes got like 16 nominations and no wins. Or 10 nominations.
That's actually surprising. Busta Rhymes, and by the way, Busta Rhymes is my favorite hip hop artist of all time. He has that many nominations, though. I'm surprised.
Yeah, he's
amazing.
It's upwards of. He's got double-digit nominations with no wins. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, not last night, but on Sunday, Taylor Swift surpassed Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had 13 career Grammys.
Right.
Now she has 14. Does that mean that Taylor Swift is on par with someone like Michael Jackson? To some people, yes. To others, not so much. But I don't think the Grammys should determine that necessarily, but it does for some people.
Well, and you saw Miley Cyrus got her first one.
That to me was surprising. The fact that her first 2 Grammys occurred for Flowers. It was funny when she talked about
nice
writing
song,
Flowers. It is a nice song. I mean that she took from Bruno, but
yeah, it has a Bruno vibe. I didn't know that, but as you say that,
listen,
it has a
go back
vibe
and listen to "When I Was Your Man" by Bruno Mars. That's the chorus.
That's
so right. I mean, but Bruno, he's taking liberties too. So that's how music works.
How much Grammys he have?
Bruno's got a few. I mean, he and Anderson swept the Grammys 2 years ago.
Right.
For Leave the Door Open. So he has those 4. He won Album of the Year for 24 Karat Magic. Mm-hmm. He won Best Pop Album for Unorthodox Jukebox. So he's got quite a few.
And yet Beyonce has 32, right?
Yeah.
And yet Jay-Z apparently ain't satisfied with that. I'm gonna play a clip from Jay-Z's speech from his Living Legend Award. Was that what he got?
It was the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award.
He had some issues with let's just say Beyonce not getting Album of the Year, ever winning it, despite winning. Here's a clip from the show.
Obviously, it's subjective because it's music and it's opinion based. But some things, I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than everyone and never won Album of the Year. So even by your own metrics, that doesn't work. Think about that. The most Grammys, never won Album of the Year. That doesn't work.
Does Jay-Z have a point there?
Yes and no. Okay. Yes and no. I can say that because I have a bulletproof vest in case the Beehive comes looking for me.
Some folks are fucking crazy.
But I mean, they're not as bad as the Barbs are, but that's another story.
Who the Barbs?
Nicki Minaj's fan base.
Really?
Oh yeah, we'll talk more offline about that.
Oh shit! Okay.
but here's the thing. Yes, it's very, very strange that Beyonce hasn't won. I mean, to some people, it's very strange that Beyonce hasn't won Album of the Year at least once. She's been nominated 3 times. She got nominated for her self-titled album. She was nominated for Lemonade, and she was nominated for Renaissance last year. She self-titled lost to Beck. Lemonade lost to Adele. And
I'm surprised Adele's record.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat 10. You can't beat Diamond.
Right.
And those are hard copies.
I said as someone that I'm not even a Beyonce fan, and I love Lemonade, but Adele's international impact has been phenomenal these last decade or so. So
yeah, there's no way that she was going to beat a Diamond selling record.
Right.
And then of course last year with Renaissance, it's funny that you talked about Bruno. Yeah. Silk Sonic actually decided not to put An Evening with Silk Sonic up for Grammys that year. It certainly would have gotten nominated for Album of the Year. And I thought maybe they were trying to make way for Beyonce to win for Album of the Year by graciously bowing out. But Harry Styles ended up winning for Harry's House. And once again, that he's a white British pop singer who had a big impact with his record. I mean, those are 3 of the biggest hits on the radio all of that year, from Music from a Sushi Restaurant, from As It Was, which was a huge hit, Late Night Talking, which is my jam. I can't even front. I love Late Night Talking. That song like Daydreamer that wasn't even a single, which makes great use of Quincy Jones and the Brothers Johnson sample.
Of course, yeah.
So there was, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Harry had a big year with those big singles. Beyonce's Renaissance was culturally important, but she made an album that was speaking to a particular community of people, whereas Harry's album spread out to many different people. So there was more awareness of what he brought to the table with that. Of course, not to say that Beyonce doesn't move the needle across Black culture or LGBTQ culture that she did with Renaissance. However, there are rooms that Harry Styles' music can get into that Beyonce's music can't get into. And Break My Soul was the only legitimate single that was released from that record. I mean, Cuff It got a lot of radio play, but she didn't. She purposely made a decision that this album needed to be listened to as a full body of work.
But is that what Beyonce's been doing for a while now, though? She kind of, and this is actually a great segue because this is going to go into the Taylor Swift conversation now, because I've been saying one of the reasons why I believe Beyonce has not moved the needle in the same way, say, Taylor has now, and I'll say even Rihanna the last 20 years, is because Beyonce in the last, say, decade or more has made a conscious decision to make her music more targeted towards a certain audience. That's it, to the point where, I hate to say it, maybe a white audience doesn't necessarily gravitate to that. Well, and you limit your audience that way, and you obviously gonna limit your reach.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ernest. But there's another point to look at it too. Beyonce made with the exception of this last album, I'll get into that in a second. She has made a conscious effort to have her albums be multimedia, multidiscipline experiences. So, it's not just an album you're listening to; it's an experience that you have to watch. Also, ever since B-Day, every song that she has on her albums gets music videos, and so with
every song on the album,
ever since B-Day.
No, it's funny.
B-Day, every song on her albums get music.
That's
videos.
funny because I know Metallica has done that now the last couple albums too. Every single song on their album has had a video attached to it too. So I know if that's a new trend of a lot of these artists now. Maybe I think.
Well, I mean, I guess it's a trend. It's not unprecedented. I mean, Tony Basil of "Hey Mickey, You're So Fine" fame. She was one of the first people to really try that, to make a music video album where like every song or majority of the songs have music videos. I mean, if you think back to the Thriller days, with Michael Jackson, who revolutionized music videos for everyone.
Right.
He had 7 singles on an album, but only 3 of them had music videos.
Yeah, Thriller, Billie Jean. That's it.
Exactly. So Tony Basil was really one of the first people to really play with that. Then, of course, you have people like Michael Jackson with Moonwalker, Janet Jackson with the Rhythm Nation rollout, Correct. Prince with Sign of the Times.
Yes.
So when they have these sort of visuals that they're putting in to make a big giant statement with their albums, so Beyonce, borrowed from that and enhanced it from that, with and really went to another level with the self-titled album. Then with Lemonade, making it a big like a movie. Then of course it's Black Parade and The Lion King, The Gift, and then with Renaissance, she did the opposite.
Yeah.
And decided, I'm not going to do any visuals or in terms of making music videos, which I thought was ultimately an excellent decision, just in terms of letting the music speak for itself. And that's the ultimate point that I'm making.
Yeah.
Is that, she's trying to make a larger statement with her songs by including these visuals. And sometimes those songs don't get to breathe out in the open the way other songs get to breathe, because you're trying to watch it as a big giant cohesive piece. So Rihanna, she's a very single based sort of artist, even though people loved her last record, Anti, which I also enjoyed a lot as a full piece. But when you have people like that have these big singles in a time where singles and individual songs mean a lot, particularly in the streaming era.
Yeah.
The way that Beyonce presents her music ultimately could backfire when it comes to things like this. Because,
and there was a time too also where Beyonce was only had music behind the title Playwall. That's it. Remember?
Yeah, that's the other
that hurt
thing.
too. That hurt too also.
Oh, it definitely hurts. I mean, you think of a group like De La Soul.
Right.
De La Soul should be in the GOAT rap group conversations, but they're not. And a big reason why was because they were not on streaming services. And they didn't have any other extracurricular visual sort of presentations. Wu-Tang is in that conversation because of their TV show, because of their documentary, because of all the other things that they do, the other enterprises.
Yeah.
NWA is in that conversation because they have the biopic, because Dr. Dre is constantly in
Correct.
this, because Ice-T is always making movies. A Tribe Called Quest is in that conversation because they have their big documentary, because Q-Tip is a big producer, because Ali Shaheed Muhammad is a big producer.
Right.
So De La Soul, all they do is put albums out, they make some videos, and they go away and do it again a few years later. And if you're not in the public consciousness like that, and your music's not on streaming, you're not going to get that type of attention. And so that's why it's so important. Streaming has become that important thing, because that's the main way that people listen to music now.
Right. So we talk about needle moving. I'm gonna play a clip from the Nightcat podcast from Shannon Sharp and Chad Cinco, because they got into discussion about Taylor Swift and her involvement with the NFL, and how like Shannon was basically saying that she moves the needle in the ways that no one else can, and he asked Chad who else can move the needle like her. And I want you to hear this little back and forth about a minute here.
Now tell me the NFL player. Okay, no, NFL. Tell me the other person that's going to do that.
Wait, how many?
$331 million in value.
Hold on. Let me think. Who else could move the needle like that? Wait, give me a minute. I'm thinking that. Let me think of somebody else can move a needle.
This guy's great, by the way.
No one.
Beyonce. If hypothetically speaking, if she went with Jay-Z and not Travis Kelce, let's say Beyonce.
She not like this. Not like this. These eyes, Ocho. These 8 to 15-year-old eyeballs. Ocho, she
the same. That same feeling.
Ocho, yes. I love Beyonce. Beyonce ain't moving the needle like this chick, Ocho. No.
What?
You tripping, Ocho. This girl,
ask the chat.
She's the closest thing to moving the needle like Michael Jackson that we've seen. This is it.
Whoa. Whoa. Reel it back in a little bit, baby. Beyonce moves the needle just like Taylor, if not more.
She doesn't.
Ask the chat, please.
Ask the chat, please. We put it to the chat.
Do a poll.
What do you think, man?
Okay. Once again, we're talking about certain circles, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask us, certain people, then they'll say, no, there's no way Taylor Swift and Beyonce are on equal footing, or Beyonce has more. But like I said, what Beyonce does is she's more concerned with culture than she is with, numbers in that sort of way. Beyonce, she'll put a record out every 4 or 5 years and then she'll disappear. Taylor Swift is, she announced while winning a Grammy for an album she put out last year that she has a new album coming out in a month and a half. So she's constantly putting out new music. So she's constantly in the conversation. Beyonce, because she chooses to put out records every few years, she's constantly in conversation when it comes to other things. But when it comes to music and just visibility, there's a little bit of truth to that, because Taylor goes out of her way, or is just naturally a person that is in the public eye because she's constantly touring, or she's constantly doing videos, or she's constantly at award shows, and she's constantly putting out product. And that requires you to make yourself available. Because Beyonce makes a conscious effort to be mysterious in terms of, okay, not only am I not only going to put out certain records, during a certain amount of time, I'm not going to make a lot of public appearances either. It's going to be very rare that you're going to.
It's very, it's funny.
It's an award show or something of that nature.
As you're saying it too, I'm thinking about this too also, because I don't follow Beyonce in the same way, but I noticed she isn't in the limelight in the same way that she was in the mid 2000s. No. She put a record, just a tour when she has a tour, but she's not in the public eye in the same way that say Taylor is, or even Rihanna for that matter.
No.
And I guess that's a conscious decision she's made to do. It's very similar to Michael Jackson in the 80s. Because people forget how big Michael was in the 80s, but he was also the most inaccessible celebrity then too also. He wasn't doing a Taylor thing every day. That's what made him so special too, is the fact that he was so big, but yes, so inaccessible.
Yeah, she definitely took a page out of that.
But the thing is, though, I think in the 80s you could do that. Today, fans want accessibility, and I think that's the thing also to it, why I think this is. I keep telling Beyonce fans this, and they get offended by this. We're not saying that Taylor's better than Beyonce. I think Beyonce is a far better entertainer, far better vocalist than Taylor Swift individually. We're talking about needle moving. We're talking about data. Data matters. Taylor Swift data-wise pushing needle in ways that Beyonce doesn't even come close at this point now. And we're not, again, this is not a likability situation. This is more about who's doing what, who's pushing product, and that's Taylor right now. Taylor is the biggest thing going in music right now, period. And you just gotta accept that.
But it's purely because of quantity.
Yeah.
I think that if Beyonce moved like Taylor, then that'd be a different story.
I do think right, go ahead.
But because Beyonce chooses only putting out records every few years and chooses not to be in the public as much, that's just a metric situation. Like you said, it's data. But if Beyonce decided that she wanted to make a record every single year, then then it would be a completely different story.
But I also think also, and you may agree with me on this one too. I think Taylor Swift is just more relatable as a human being than Beyonce is in terms of just what she's talking about. Like the average Joe, the average Jane can relate to what she's saying. Beyonce doesn't feel attainable. Beyonce feels like a queen. You can't get to her. She's up there. That's why I always say, who do you think you smoke weed with? Rihanna or Beyonce? Probably Rihanna. Rihanna seems more attainable than Beyonce. Hey, let's be real here, okay?
Yeah.
Taylor's kind of the same way like Rihanna in a sense that she's a big star, but she seems relatable. Like I can still feel like I can get close to her because like she doesn't come. I'm not even saying that Beyonce's a snob. I'm not even going that far. I'm just saying that I feel like it's much easier to approach Taylor Swift somewhere at a random store or restaurant than say Beyonce. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. I think fans see that and get that, and that's why I think this is why the numbers are where they are. And it's the same way with the Rihanna-Beyonce argument too. Also, the reason Rihanna has sold more records than Beyonce is the same reason. Rihanna makes herself more accessible. She's more relatable as a human being, in my opinion, anyway. And that's what it translates to record sales. You can't do the thing that Michael was doing in the 80s in these days now. You can't be the reclusive star anymore and think people are going to care. You got to be somewhat relatable and somewhat accessible to your fans.
Well, I think Beyonce is the exception to that rule because people definitely do care about her, even though she isn't putting out records. But I actually think that in the long run, it might backfire for people. In the short interim, it helps.
Who though? For Taylor?
Well, for Taylor, I think that because I think it has a lot to do with a few things. Number one, race cannot be ignored. I mean, we just can't ignore the fact that Taylor is a white woman and Beyonce is a black
Absolutely.
woman.
Without question.
That has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. Without question.
That has a lot to do with it. Second of all, like I said, Taylor is a person who, is sort of a machine. She puts out records, and she puts out records like a assembly line.
Yeah.
Not that that's bad or anything like that. Motown Records was like that for many years. Brill Building was like that. That's not a dig. But that's how she operates. She's not like a person like Beyonce. It's like, okay, I'm not just going to be a person that's just going to make music just because music needs to be made. I'm going to make music for a reason because there's a grand statement that has to be done.
Correct.
And that's not something you can do every single year. That's why Michael Jackson put out records every 3 or 4 years. That's why Bruno Mars waits 3 or 4 years before he puts out records. And now people like Adele, even now, I mean, it's been a few years since 30 has come out. I mean, now she's doing
right. And let me be clear too. Also, I prefer the Beyonce approach for this. I'm the guy that prefers the couple years off. Let me breathe a little bit.
It gives people a chance to miss you.
Oversaturation, huh?
It gives people a chance to miss you.
Thank you. Absence makes hardcore founder. And it's not. Again, you said it too. It's not taking on Taylor. This is what she wants to do. This is what she does. And Taylor is an authentic musician. She does write her music and all that kind of stuff. But oversaturation is a thing also too. But that's what kids want these days. I guess it's working for right now.
That's the product of living in the era of social media.
That too, also.
I often think about what life would be like in the 80s. In the 70s, if social media existed. I mean, half the artists that you and I love probably wouldn't even exist because they would have gotten canceled.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because social media turned everybody into a damn detective. You know what I'm saying?
That's very true. But but like what we're saying here about Taylor moving the needle, again, we're not saying she's better than Beyonce. It's just the data is the data. And fans today want their celebrities, want their artists to be accessible as possible. If it means putting a record every fucking year, then so be it. And Beyonce, to her credit, has stuck to her guns, and I'm going to do the way I do it. And if it means that I don't sell as much records as her, then so be it. I personally prefer that way too, because I prefer my artists to, look at it. They look at an album as an art. It's not just like, okay, I'm putting an album out in April and that's it. Whatever. That's another album. No, each album that Beyonce puts out, each album that Michael puts out was always a project, a era.
Yeah. An era, exactly.
Right. So,
which is interesting because that was Taylor's tour, is eras, and talking about her albums. But that's a real thing, because one thing that Beyonce and other people are able to do that Taylor hasn't done as well or hasn't needed to do is the art of reinvention. So Taylor had a one big reinvention when she transitioned from country music to pop music.
Right.
That was her big reinvention. But I'm talking about when you go from one album to the next album to the next. I mean, Taylor Swift fans can probably tell you much more nuanced reasons why from one album to the next she's changed better than I possibly could. But that's the point, is that, a fan would be able to express that to you more than average person like me that only knows Taylor Swift's music from a broad sense. Everybody knew when Michael Jackson's new album came out, things were changing because he had a new wardrobe, he had a new look, he had a new hairstyle, the music sounded different. The same thing with Prince. Every time Prince came out with a new record, it was a new phase, it was a new outfit, a new hair length. Kanye West was like that too. Missy Elliott, it was a queen of reinvention. Of course, you go to bands, people like David Bowie, people like Madonna, that's a big part of longevity. So, that's the thing with Beyonce.
Even Metallica too also started doing that. Once they got bigger, every album became like a project, an era too. Also, they went 5 years out make records.
Yeah, I mean,
go 8 years now actually. So
exactly. I mean, if you look at Metallica and you look at like when they went from Injustice for All to the Black Album, that was a big change,
massive shift
because they were making their songs shorter, they were making their songs sound more cleanly produced. And then when it go to Load, they start and Reload, they're starting to venture into different musical styles.
Yep.
They're putting in some Southern rock influences in there, some country influences in there.
Yep.
So, you do see that from a stylistic standpoint, and then of course the big chop when they cut their hair off.
Yep.
So, you have these markers in their outer aesthetic that helps you to see, okay, this is a new era. So I don't see that as much in Taylor Swift just because I'm not that versed in Taylor Swift. And I'm not as versed in Beyonce either, but I'm versed enough to know that when a new album comes out,
it's a big deal.
It means, okay, now we're shifting. Now we're off that now. Now we're on to something else.
I feel like right now, because of the NFL angle now too, also we're kind of at a tipping point with Taylor Swift now. I feel like now we're like, okay, everybody likes her, knows who she is. We might start to see some real backlash going forward. And you start to see a little bit now too, where people are getting a little picky and petty. Like, for example, people are mad at her because she wasn't gracious enough to Celine Dion at the Grammys. I didn't see this. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Petty as shit, but you start seeing those little things. It's Americana. We build them up, let's tear them down.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is.
Right.
Fame is the most effective and elusive serial killer in the history of this country.
Right. And I feel like we're at a point now with Taylor now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's bound to happen to everybody. I have a saying: unless you die before you're 50 or you're Miles Davis, everybody falls off.
That's why I always said the Beatles didn't have that chance to fall off.
Because they quit while they were ahead.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Beatles stopped when they were just reaching their peak and they walked away. The Police stopped when they reached their peak and then they just walked away and left people wanting more. I think that's why Daft Punk decided to break up, because how
Nirvana,
in the world
Nirvana too.
Yeah, I mean, well, Nirvana, they stopped because
said
of a shotgun blast. But
right.
I mean, no disrespect, no
Right.
disrespect.
No, it's okay. No,
but
reality.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? I mean, but everybody, if you have any longevity, if you you fall off, unless you're Miles Davis. He's the only person that never fell off.
So true.
He's the only one.
So I'm gonna make a statement here, and tell me if you agree with me on this one.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of music, I've said in history of music we've had three phenomenons, culture shifts, pop culture wise in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Elvis, we've had the Beatles, we had Michael.
Yeah.
Am I wrong to think that Taylor Swift might be the fourth? Because I haven't seen one artist or act be this important now. And let's be real here. This is not a new thing. She's been around for a little bit now. She's been around for at least 10 plus years now.
And the irony about that is that because of streaming and because of social media, it's harder to pinpoint that because everything now is so siloed. Like mainstream music is a silo niche genre in and of itself to a certain degree, because you have people that can have success without needing to be number one on the charts or needing to be, and plus the Billboard charts got 1 million charts. You don't just have the R&B charts and the Hot 100 charts and the rock
but
charts.
She's the one artist I've seen the last, and I'm not going based on what we're seeing now in the last year and last 2 years. I'm taking a 10-year sample at least of this woman who's been on the tips of everybody's tongue for the last 10 years now, and it's continuing to build and build and build. It's almost like a phenomenon. Now, obviously, streaming is a little bit different. It's a little bit different situation, but you can't go anywhere without knowing who this woman is. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, and that's very true. But like I said, because of the era we're in, it's a little different. I think that if you want to talk about, if you really want to talk about it, she could be just in terms of mainstream success. But I don't think that she affected culture.
American culture.
The way that the Beatles affected culture, the way that Michael affected culture, the way that Elvis affected culture.
Right.
Things in different mediums changed because of those three acts. You know what I'm saying?
The reason I brought up is because you start to hear now we're in an election year.
Yeah.
You're now hearing people in both camps. Well, mostly in the Republican camp now, that could she sway an election? If she gets people to come out and vote for Biden, that could sway the election. That's once you're in those parts now, where politics now is so polarizing, and yet that one name can be the name that hypothetically change this course of an election. That you're now going some uncharted territory now.
But that's a tale as old as time. Shout out to Beauty and the Beast. Everybody, tries to use celebrity and particularly musicians to get voters and to sway people to certain votes and certain sides of the pendulum in terms of conservative and liberal.
Right.
You saw the Last Dance documentary, of course, I'm sure.
Of course.
And, there was that episode where, Michael was trying to, Michael declined endorsing this black candidate in North Carolina and felt like that was the difference between getting this white racist candidate out of office. And because he didn't endorse them publicly, that black candidate didn't win.
Right.
I don't know necessarily if that's true or not, but there is enough merit to it that people believe that. Bob Marley almost lost his life because, people were trying to figure out what side of the fence he was on politically in Jamaica when these two warring political factions were going up against each other. So I think that if Taylor's smart, she will probably stay neutral or she'll endorse Biden because she sees from her arch nemesis, Mr. West, that endorsing Trump is gonna do nothing but get you in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that holds you back from saying that Taylor is that fourth phenomena, I don't know how her international impact is. We know Michael is a god outside America.
Yeah.
Okay. Even today, 15 years after his death.
Oh yeah,
the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie.
He's the Black Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes,
because what did he say when he fought Darth Vader in Star Wars? If you strike me down, I become more powerful than ever.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened
in death.
In death, he's more popular than ever.
Yeah, Elvis still. It's been a long time since
people still even try to act like he didn't die. Like people still
right. And the Beatles are still the Beatles. The Beatles are still
the Beatles had a top 10 record.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. The Beatles, they have the biggest selling album of the 2000s, and they had a top 10 record on the Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah.
Within the past 3 or 4 months, and 2 of their members have been dead for over 2 decades.
40 years. Yeah. Yeah. So my thing is like the only thing that holds me back with Taylor Swift is I don't know if this phenomenon is solely an American phenomenon. Because the other 3 guys we mentioned are internationally legendary.
So here's what I will say then. Another person that moves the needle internationally that we know of that probably does numbers like Taylor does, as much as it pains me to say it, is Drake. Drake has the most placements on the Billboard Hot 100 top 10 than any artist in history, albeit a lot of them are because he was a guest artist.
Correct.
But it's still true. He does big numbers when his records come out. He's another person that puts an album out, particularly in the last 3 years, at a constant quantitative state. So that he's moving the needle internationally because of the fact that he has borrowed a lot of these trends from overseas that become popular in America, and then artists that he works with start working with him, and then they start to see an uptick of things that they're doing. So
get the rub.
Exactly. So we can say officially that Drake does move the needle internationally in a way that Taylor Swift might not move the needle internationally, at least from a novice's standpoint.
I'll say this much though to your point with Drake, and I've been saying this for about a couple of years now. Without question, Drake is the biggest hip hop star we had in the last 15 years. Without question,
I would say rap star.
Rap star. Rap star. Okay.
Drake is a pop artist who happens to rap.
Okay. Fine.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to call a spade a spade.
I'm just saying in that genre, he's the biggest name we've had in the last decade plus.
It unquestionably.
Is he moving needle like a Taylor or
But I don't think he does because of the fact that he's a rapper also.
Right.
And that's always going to hold you back to a certain degree. Because
that country pop sector is so huge. And that's what Taylor got that.
But it's even more granular than that. Right. Melody is king.
Of course.
Quincy told that to Michael. Michael told that to Teddy. Teddy told that to... It's just... Melody is king.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to hum it. If you can hum it, then you already did your job. And that's one of the things that Drake understands because of the fact that he sings and he raps is because people still have to be able to hum what you do. How many people, I don't know very many people outside of hardcore hip hop fans that would pick a rap album to be their quote unquote desert island album. Only a person that only listens to hip hop would say that. But a person that listens to lots of different music, I'm willing to bet 8 times out of 10 they would not pick a rap album to be their desert island album.
No, I might consider Busta Rhymes album, but
you have to look. You have to be able to hum it. That's why people like Ja Rule and people like Nelly and people like Drake win, because they tapped into something in terms of incorporating melody into their raps and into their music in a way that other rappers weren't doing. That's why they ultimately ascended to a place of mainstream acceptance in ways that other rap artists didn't. It didn't have as much to do with their image as it did with the fact that people were able to sing along. People were able to hum it. You know, if you want to go and take a ride with me, you know, you can sing that.
Yeah.
You know, what would I
20
do
years
without
later?
you? I only think about you. Like
Yep.
you can sing that. Just hold on, we're going home. You can sing those things.
Yeah. And Drake is a genius. He is not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate what he does.
Yeah.
And what he's been able to sustain, especially in a genre where it's about being tough and this and that and this sort of image. Drake's like, nah, I'm good. I'll do what I'm doing, and I'll bring in the ladies, I'll bring even some of the white audience and all that. I'm good, man. It's working.
Drake has been the best artist when it comes to being extremely successful by being extremely passive aggressive.
Yes.
You know, I've never seen somebody as passive aggressive as Drake be this successful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's certainly impressive.
It's worked for him. It's his career. So
exactly. And that's the thing. He does what works. You know, it's starting. That's another person where like it's starting to like rear its head a little bit. I wrote an article about the fact that he was starting to send unprovoked shots and beef at women, which is really, really strange.
Yeah, wow. But and that's core your audience.
Well, but like I said, it's a corny audience. If you're a corny person but you have corny fans, they're gonna support you.
Yeah. Speaking of melody, did you watch the Netflix documentary, Greatest Night in Pop?
I certainly did.
What do you think?
I liked it. I really did enjoy it.
Phenomenal documentary.
Here's the interesting thing about the Greatest Night in Pop. The biggest talk on social media was the discourse about Prince choosing not to participate.
Yes, of course.
And a lot of people coming to his defense and saying, well, it wasn't even a good song anyway. And I'm like, well, they raised $80 million for family relief. Somebody thought it was a good song. You know what I'm saying? The fastest selling single in American music history. Mm-hmm. Somebody had to think it was good. So I don't like this whole idea. I mean, look, people like what they like. People don't like what they don't like. That's fine. But I really don't like this whole thing about trying to make something look bad to try to justify somebody else's decisions. The reason that no one knows for sure exactly why Prince decided not to do We Are the World. By all accounts, he was a person that was a shy person that didn't like being around lots of people, particularly other celebrities. And he had his own way of recording music, and he wouldn't have been as comfortable. And that's perfectly fine.
Let's be real too. Also, the dude was fucking petty back then too. Back in those days, he was petty as shit.
No,
that's okay.
He was petty when he was at the end of his life too. but I mean, yeah. But yeah, but that's okay because because people forget USA for Africa was an album. We Are the World was one song
on an album. Yes,
it was the centerpiece of an album. And Prince did give For the Tears of Your Eyes a beautiful, beautiful record, and gave it to that album that is great. And it, you know, he did it his way, and the end result was wonderful. And I'm fine with that. We Are the World didn't need Prince, and you know, but that's like the one thing that I like the discourse I wanted to talk about in terms of people trying to make the song sound like it wasn't a good song, to try to justify the fact that Prince didn't show up. No.
The song is supposed to appeal to a demographic from ages birth to 90 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do like a song that's supposed to be like show you're a genius, then you're missing the point here. It's supposed to appeal to everybody, so everybody can buy the record, so the money can go towards feeding hungry kids and families down in Africa.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
Kenny Loggins said it best in the documentary. He said, it certainly had a memorable chorus, you know, and Bruce Springsteen thought, oh, this is a very broad, sweeping song, and it needs to be this way.
And that's the point.
And that was the point. And Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie were the two people that understood that more than almost anybody in music at that time. Certainly, it's interesting that Stevie Wonder. I kind of knew that Stevie Wonder was supposed to be involved in the writing of "We Are the World" and ultimately wasn't. I didn't know the exact details of the fact that they asked him first to work with Lionel.
Missed phone calls. I'll get back to
he
you.
Didn't, and he just pushed it off and and then ended up getting to Michael.
And best part is this dude's like coming into the studio like, okay, we're gonna rate it right now. No, Stevie, this song's done.
Yeah, I love the fact that Quincy said, "Let me talk to him."
Yeah. And he was cool with it. It's okay, cool.
He had to be, especially when Lionel was like, "Dude, we tried to tell you weeks ago. Like,
yeah,
we told you weeks ago we wanted you to write the song. You were too busy." I mean, look, it's the fact that Stevie Wonder was in Buffalo, New York, less than 10 hours before he was supposed to be in that studio to record that song should tell you everything you need to know. And that's no shade to Stevie, because Stevie is the GOAT, and I will not tolerate Stevie slander.
It's my number 2 all-time favorite artist. So yeah, I'm with you there. But the Prince thing too, also, like, one of the things we found out, no, this is true, not this is based on documentary. The part that Huey Lewis did, with Michael did the part, went down now, overall. Huey Lewis comes in, the Lopper. Supposedly that was Prince's part.
Yes.
I gotta be honest with you, Matt. And I love Prince. He's my number 3 artist all time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, personal. I can't see Prince singing that.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's nothing but that's the whole point. Like, where in that song would Prince have made sense?
Exactly. Seriously. Now, granted, I say that as someone that, like, Quincy Jones' genius shown here on the show, on this song, because how you can get Springsteen and Stevie Wonder's vocals to mix well in the same part of the song and it sounds beautiful. Yeah, I guess Q can make it work out somewhere for Prince. I just don't know Prince's style vocally would have fit on this song.
I think that had more to do with optics than it did to do with arrangement. Even though Tom Baylor did an exquisite job as a vocal arranger and the person that was chiefly responsible for putting everybody in their proper order in terms of the solos. Tom Baylor, of course, which didn't get mentioned in the documentary, he wrote "She's Out of My Life" for the Off the Wall album. Right. He is the one who played the Beat It intro on Thriller. Very big part of Quincy's A team. And he did a great job. But personally, just trying to, like, I think that in terms of they alluded to this, having Michael Jackson standing next to Prince in that moment, going from him to him, that was a moment that they wanted to capture. So it had more to do with optics than it did to do with the recording in and of itself. And I think to myself, like, why I as a person that is, constantly, researching about Michael Jackson and Prince, I'm really of two minds about it, because I understand why people compare the two of them, but I also think it's weird that people compare them, because they really are apples and oranges.
It's literally LeBron and Jordan. Like, they're literally 2 different players.
It's not even like
there's no comparison. There's no comparison.
It's like LeBron and Kareem.
But what I'm saying, like LeBron and Jordan are 2 completely different players, though.
Yeah,
they really are. They really are.
Well, that's why I say LeBron and Kareem, because LeBron and Jordan are still 2 wing players.
Correct.
LeBron is a wing player, and Kareem was a post up sky hooking center. That's why I'm like, okay, their aesthetics are completely different in terms of the way they sing, the way that they record, the production, the way they approach music, the way they release music. It's very, very, very different. They have a lot of similarities. Outside of both being Black Midwesterners, but and their influences are also very similar. Yeah, between Stevie Wonder being big influences on both of them, James Brown being big influences on both of them, Sly Stone being big influences on both. More so on Prince throughout his whole life. Sly was really early influence with Mike.
Right.
But to me, it was just an optical moment that they were trying to obtain to try to, galvanize people that, it maybe Prince saw it for what it was and decided not to partake because of that. I mean, we'll never really know, but I think ultimately it was the right decision. Speaking of which, I'm glad that they exposed Waylon Jennings' racist ass.
So he wasn't on the video at all, right?
So Waylon Jennings was in the chorus.
Okay.
So, and I've heard this story because Huey Lewis said this story on Questlove Supreme podcast. That's another reason why I know that he sang Prince's part. So Waylon Jennings was in the chorus and he did record, the "We Are the World, We Are the Children." Right. When Stevie butted in and tried to get them to sing Swahili, that's when he was like, okay, this is a bridge too far for me. And then he just walked out because it's like, yeah, no good old boy ever sang Swahili. I'm leaving.
He never came back, right?
Yeah, he never. Yeah, he just walked away without saying anything to anybody, and it's just like, okay, that's the bridge too far for you. He really showed his ass in that moment.
You should at least ask questions. What are you saying? At least whatever.
Yeah, but like I said, they didn't need Waylon Jennings on that song.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like he was gonna sing a solo or anything. And plus his boy Willie was there, Willie Nelson. So
he was great. He was great in that song too.
Who, was great. And that's the other thing that's great about Tom Baylor, the fact that not just the solos, but the melding of the voices, knowing that Willie Nelson and Dionne Warwick would meld together well, knowing that Stevie and Bruce would meld together well. That Paul Simon
was the highlight. That was the highlight of the whole fucking song was the Bruce and and Springsteen, Bruce and Stevie.
Exactly. And then Paul Simon and Kenny Rogers blending together, and then the decision to have Chris Karn, the Betty Davis Eyes girl. What's her name?
Kim Carnes.
Kim Carnes.
Right.
So having Kim Carnes and Huey Lewis harmonize, which wasn't originally with the original arrangement, that decision ultimately proved to be a good decision. So that's why I'm like having Prince there to sing next to Mike, knowing what Prince's voice sounds like. It's just like it just didn't make a lot of sense. I mean,
I got a part of my friend earlier on one of my friends on the show, Duke. He was sitting there saying, Duke Bennett. He was sitting there saying that Huey Lewis can't sing, neither can sing live. Like, what are you fucking talking about, bro?
Huey Lewis can sing his ass off.
Yes, he can sing his ass off, dude.
Yeah,
and I thought his part was awesome.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, when he got it right.
Right. He was nervous as shit. He was probably nervous as shit though, because you're sitting next to Michael Jackson, who obviously at the time was the biggest star in the world. Okay, and wrote the fucking song on top of that too.
Not to mention the fact that he wasn't supposed to sing it, so he's just learning it in the moment. Right. Everyone else was sent those tapes and were told ahead of time,
right,
this is the part that you're going to sing. He wasn't prepared to sing that part, so of course he's not like even the whole thing with Bob Dylan, having Stevie Wonder sort of coach him through doing his solo.
That was awesome though. That part, just watching him
together.
Amazing.
And I love the fact that Bob really confided in Stevie, and Stevie was able to mimic his voice, and they were able to get it right. It was I said, that's why Stevie is the best. And then
dude, of course, I'm watching that show. I'm watching the thing. I'm like, Stevie's an awesome hangout. He just has an awesome hangout.
Yeah,
I feel like gotta be awesome to hang out with. Just have dinner with and just to hang out.
I would love. I've been trying to interview him for God knows how long. I would love to interview him before he goes, because like I said, I have so many questions.
he has a great spirit about him too. Also,
yeah.
When we lose him, I'm gonna be a wreck when you lose him. So
yeah. I mean, and plus, one of the great things about Stevie is his sense of humor.
Yes.
That's and he doesn't take himself too serious. I mean, to me, he's the greatest artist ever, and he doesn't take himself too seriously, and you can't ask that of anyone.
Yeah. Any other standouts on this documentary? I mean, Quincy Jones is a genius. They've seen the building of the voices. Of course, you see why he's the greatest producer of all time. To me,
yeah, definitely.
I love how this documentary also highlighted Michael's humility too, Michael Jackson's humility, because like he wrote the song, yeah, he didn't want to be the centerpiece. Not only that, he didn't want to be a centerpiece. Like he's the biggest star in the world. He could have said, why I wrote the song. Actually, no, he not only didn't want to sing on the song, he not want to be in the video either. Initially,
because he was very afraid of overexposure. I mean,
yeah.
Thriller was the biggest selling album of the world. He was literally a month off of the Victory Tour.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I'm gonna chill.
But think about the self-awareness of someone. We discussed Taylor Swift earlier in the podcast about like over and over and over and over and over. Like he's always in our face. Think about you already have now accomplished being the biggest star in the world right now. Okay, and the self-awareness of, you know what, I want to step back, take a breathe, take a breather. That takes a lot of self-awareness to say that.
Yeah, but people forget how long Michael was doing it at that point. It's not like he was just like famous like out of nowhere because of Thriller or because of Off the Wall. He was literally a legend before he turned 18 years old.
Right.
People forget that at that time he was 26 years old and he was already a seasoned veteran that was very wise beyond his years. Right. Like he was 26 to everyone else, but he might as well have been 66 in terms of his knowledge of the industry, his knowledge of songwriting, his knowledge of recording and vocalization, and even just navigating celebrity culture.
Right.
He really had great humility and self-awareness, and particularly Lionel Richie. I love the fact that Lionel, talked about how he and Michael goofed off a lot before they actually wrote the song.
The story of the snake. Remember the snake? He found the snake.
Oh yeah. Lionel, he was looking for us. Oh my God. It's like, how do you lose a snake? Like how do you lose a 40-foot python? Like
only
that's
Michael,
not something
dude.
that's not high on the list of things that you misplaced.
Only Michael, dude. I swear,
you misplace a pair of glasses.
Exactly. Yes.
You don't misplace a giant python.
Yeah, exactly. No, other standouts on the documentary besides that, Sheila E. felt used.
That to me was a revelation. That was so unfortunate because it was so great to see her. Sheila E. has always been such an affable presence. So she's so talented and so gracious, and I felt really, really bad that she was put into that position and made to feel that way.
To draw Prince in to do the show.
To draw,
the song.
If that is the reason why they did.
Do you believe it?
I believe there's some truth to it. Even if Lionel wasn't doing it directly, he definitely was complicit in whatever decision it was to tell her you're gonna sing a verse when they had no intentions of having her sing a verse because they're trying to get Prince, because that does seem like that was the case. And that's really, really unfortunate because, like I said, Sheila at the time, was really coming into her own as a solo artist and actually did perform as a solo artist that night, singing The Glamorous Life. And there was really a big coming out party for her.
That song was so dope, by the way. I love that song.
Oh yeah, love that song. Oh, just real quick, what's better, a Glamorous Life or a Love Bazaar?
I'll leave Glamorous Life though, because I just love that song.
Yeah,
I love the long version and the short version. So
yeah, but that to me was really, really unfortunate. Another revelation to me, besides, like I said, Tom Baylor and the way that he arranged the vocals, another revelation I'd have to say would be Al Jarreau being drunk.
Yes, that's the one. That's what it was. Dude.
That was really, really fun. Them Quincy ordering Roscoe's chicken and waffles.
Yes, I got hungry watching that too. I was like, damn, I'm starving now.
It was great to see like Kenny Rogers like eating Roscoe's chicken and waffles and all that stuff, or like the cute moment where like Cyndi Lauper is sort of getting subconscious about like the recording, and they're like, "Oh, we hear something feedback," and it turns out she had on too many bracelets and too many loud things, too many beads. So that was another good moment for me.
She was nervous as hell. She was very nervous. She was very
because
nervous.
that was another weird part. Was like right before it's like, oh, my boyfriend says the song is not going to be a hit, so I don't think I should be on it. I'm like, oh my god, of all the excuses to bow out, that's so juvenile.
I'm really curious to see who the boyfriend was at the time. Really curious.
I'm sure he was like one of those like sort of possessive, abusive types.
Probably gotta be. One more thing, two more things actually. The MJ bio, Michael Jackson bio. It's green light now. They have a date. They have the cast filling up now. We saw Jafar Jackson, Michael's nephew, Jermaine's son. Jermaine credits, Jermaine's kid. He's playing Michael. They already have the parents, Joe and Catherine Jackson, lined up now. What's his face? I know Neil Long's playing Catherine.
Yeah. Coleman Domingo is playing Joseph Jackson.
Correct. Right. Yo, I'm getting excited about this thing, man. I really am. I'm
hesitant about it, not because of the way that Michael may or may not be portrayed. That part I'm not. Well, that part I'm sort of tentative because I always give pause when there are black biopics that are written by white screenwriters. Like there's a black director and a white screenwriter. I prefer it be the other way around if it had to be one or the other.
Right.
But we'll see. I think that just my whole thing is just like it has nothing to do with Michael or the way he might or might not be portrayed. It's just that biopics have just become increasingly disappointing over the years.
Which one, for example, you not liked?
Get On Up is one of the biggest missed opportunities. Yeah, it was a huge. I
think I missed that one. Actually, what year did that came out?
That was like 2013 or 14.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
So I saw it. I did a review for Ebony Magazine. It didn't know what it wanted to be. James Brown broke the fourth wall more than halfway, almost 2/3 through the movie. He broke the fourth wall. And it was out of order. It was like a Tarantino movie where it was like, not linear, but then it was linear in other ways. It didn't know how it wanted to be told. And that's what made it so hard to follow, so hard to take seriously. The only saving grace of that film was was Chadwick's interaction as James Brown with Bobby Bird. There are times where Chadwick was being really great as James Brown, and there are other times when Chadwick was being sort of a caricature of James Brown. But the most genuine moments were when he and Bobby Bird were having conversations and interactions, and that was like the saving grace of that movie. But that movie was a big disappointment in terms of biopics. And even though and then Bohemian Rhapsody to a lesser degree, because even though I enjoyed the movie overall, because I know Queen as much as I do, there were so many nitpicky moments that I'm like,
you're getting down my alley because I'm
even need to do that. Like the whole thing about We Will Rock You being written in 1980, the whole thing about Fat Bottom Girls being in their first tour when it was 4 years before the song was written. I'm like, that's not even stuff that you should. There's no reason to take those liberties. Those are things that you could just let them be what they are. I understood certain liberties when it came to the inclusion of Paul Printer, the relationship between Freddie and Mary Austin,
right?
The way that the liberties they took when it came to the firing of their manager, Elton, who was Elton John's manager, because that's he wasn't their manager at that time.
Right.
So I understood those aspects of it. And even to a degree of the revelation that Freddie had AIDS before Live Aid, which is not true. Freddie didn't even
Easter 87.
Yeah, he didn't even know he had AIDS at that time. And he didn't tell the group he had AIDS until they were recording The Miracle, which is 1988. But I get it in terms of the storytelling aspect of it, to raising the stakes. but there were just too many moments like that took me out of the movie.
See, that's the thing. You see, everything you just said there is exactly why I like the movie a lot. As it, like, if you're a casual Queen fan, you'll take what it is. Hey, great music, legends, da da da. I'm a hardcore Queen fan, so I could pick out little, like everything you just said there. I knew already. Everything you said there about the accuracies of the dates and stuff. Certain songs coming out, and he has short hair when We Will Rock You. No, he had long hair when you
No, he had long hair when that song
1976,
came out.
1975.
He didn't have a mustache.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What was I gonna say? They got mad at Freddie because he was doing a solo album, even though Roger already had 2 solo albums by that time.
Right.
I mean, yes, they were mad about his advance, but I'm like, dude, like I get it, but I don't get why they had to go so far, particularly when you have Brian May and Roger Taylor actually there, you know, to tell the real side of the story. And then, of course, the actor that played Roger Taylor just didn't give a shit about trying to get his accent right when everybody else did. I actually think that the guy that played, even though Rami Malek deserved to win the Oscar, the guy that played Brian was actually better.
Perfect. Yes.
He really was Brian, you know, like that part, you know, but you know, biopic those are 2 big examples of why a lot of biopics just haven't resonated with me very well.
And you got Bob Marley next week too. Also,
music.
The Bob Marley one's next week.
What's that next week?
The Bob Marley one's out next week.
Oh, I don't even know.
I'm scared to watch it.
I'm very scared to watch it. Particularly, here's the other reason, though, Ernest. It's because documentaries. We're in a golden age of documentaries right now, and the Marley documentary that came out in 2013, or that came out like less than 10 years ago, that's like the definitive Bob Marley documentary. And I'm like, what am I going to learn about Bob that I didn't learn watching that piece, or I wouldn't learn reading Bob's books or reading Marley's book? You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. You know, if you're going to do something like that, I would make it into like a limited series. I think that like the New Edition story was a huge exception to the rule. That was a brilliant biographical telling of
that was
BET,
right?
That was BET,
right?
And man, oh man, that's in the top 3 of music biographical miniseries. That's Jackson's American Dream, New Edition story, and The Temptations. Those are the 3 greatest music miniseries, biographical music series I've ever seen. And biopics can stand to learn a lot from those. So, but I just like documentaries more because I learn more.
Yeah.
And everything is truthful. I mean, Thriller 40 is look, let's not talk about Thriller 40.
It was too messy.
It
was all over the place.
I can't rightly express the amount of disappointment that I had watching Thriller 40. It was almost like it was purposely done poorly.
I love the footage. That's what that's for me.
Yes. I have to the behind the scenes footage of The Girl Is Mine being recorded.
Yes.
The 4K conversion of the Victory Tour footage that Michael had shot with his camera crew that the estate has been sitting on for God knows how long.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm watching the documentary, I'm like, holy shit, did Michael put a jib on the stage? Like, it's like, are those tracking shots? Like, how, like, when they're coming down the steps and they get the close up of the feet, I'm like, oh, John Branca is a whole bastard for letting this sit and collect dust. Like, even though I personally think the Triumph Tour is the best representation of the Jacksons and Michael Jackson as a live performer.
Yeah,
the Victory Tour still, if with that footage, it needs to be brought out.
I might have told you in the past, though, I'm not a big Victory Tour guy. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, look,
never have been.
The Victory Tour, like I said, it has its merit, but no, the Triumph Tour blows.
That's my shit.
Out of the water.
That's my shit.
Michael has always, to me, been more comfortable being with his brothers than being a solo act in terms of live on stage to me,
right.
Tour wise. And the Triumph tour, you know, it's the last time that they have fully live instruments, like a full live brass section with with minimal synthesizers. The band was really, really kicking and funky and loose. Michael's voice was just, that pre-Thriller voice was amazing.
Peak.
Just amazing. His charisma, his interactions with his brothers, the brothers' interaction with each other, the symmetry and the synergy of their dance routines at that point. It was an all-time high. And as Michael said in his autobiography, no marginal material on the Triumph tour.
Right.
The Victory tour is basically the Thriller tour because
essentially,
there's no songs from Victory that's represented in that tour.
None
at all. There's 16. There were like 14 songs on the set list, and 8 of them were Michael Jackson solo records. You got 5. You got 4 or 9. You got 4 songs from Thriller. You got 4 songs from Off the Wall. You got, it's just amazing. And then you have the bathroom break that is Jermaine's portion.
Tell me I'm dreaming.
It's crazy. Michael didn't even come out until it was his turn to sing that song.
Yeah.
But the first 2 songs, he was just backstage. He's like, okay, I'm going to catch my breath now. While all the other brothers stayed on stage with him. That's how it's like, this is my tour. Especially after I didn't even want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like he legitimately wanted, he thought that Thriller would run its course. He was ready to
move on,
look at film scripts and start that portion of his career. Because he was very serious about wanting to be a triple threat, being a singer, a dancer, and an actor. He was very serious about that. But circumstances being what they were, I wanted
the bio catches that stuff. See, this is why I'm scared. This is why I'm scared of the bio of the Michael bio in some degree. Like on one hand, my main concern is making sure his legacy is preserved. Make sure people who may have questions about Michael Jackson, they look at him in a different light after it. Yeah. So as a fan, that's my number one concern.
Yes,
I told you, and you were with me on the Queen bio that nitpicking things.
Yeah,
and I'm a massive Queen fan, and I pick things out like nothing on that bio.
Yeah,
Michael Jackson's my favorite artist of all time in music. Period. In discussion.
Yeah, me too.
If I was that bad with Queen, how the fuck how bad think I'll be with Michael Jackson?
You made a very good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a very good point, Ernest.
Bro, I know Michael Jackson's life top to bottom and then some. Yeah. I have friends that are close to him who lived, so I know things that, like even American Dream, that's American Dream story. They got the year wrong when they had a recording Thriller.
Every year was wrong.
Yes!
They got Michael's birth year wrong.
Yes!
They got the year they signed to Motown wrong. The year they left Motown was wrong.
Yes!
Everything was off by a year.
And the family did the fucking show. Some of my language. I'm sorry. The family did the damn.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
They get it right.
They obviously. Jermaine was a producer on it. They obviously got Michael's permission to put the songs in, or Sony's permission to use Michael's records and all that stuff. They signed off on it, and they still got it years wrong of all things. So that's something I didn't even think about, Ernest.
And it is nitpicking because like casual fan doesn't really care in the grand scheme. Me, hardcore Michael Jackson fan, I care.
No,
get it right.
Absolutely. Like look, I went to the very first time I went to Las Vegas was a few years ago, right?
Right.
And I was staying at the Stratosphere Hotel and Casino, which is a little bit further from the main strip. There is a Michael Jackson impersonation show that's the main attraction of that particular casino. Mm-hmm. And I went in and watched it, and the whole time I'm like, granted, I did have a few too many frozen banana daiquiris, but that only changed the volume of my voice. I still would have had the same problems. I kept saying that chord change is not right, or you didn't play that note long enough in Dirty Diana and Leave Me Alone. That chord progression's not right. So yeah.
I'm the same way, dude.
I'm gonna be no fun.
I told my wife
no fun being around me.
I told my wife that you can't sit with me the first time because I'm gonna be too I'm gonna be annoying for the same reason. So, but it's coming together. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how they fault the cast and all that. And what years they cover. I want to see what years they cover, especially. I mean,
that's gonna be that to me is gonna be like the deciding factor of how. Obviously, they're gonna, they hired the actor who's gonna play Michael as a child, so obviously that's gonna be incorporated because it kind of has to be because, Michael you can't really talk about Michael Jackson's life without talking about his childhood because that's the reason for this whole thing.
Right.
People talk about how famous he was and everything. It's all because of how he was as a child and that voice from a child. It all starts there. So you kind of can't gloss it over. But I'll be interested to see the angle that they are because, I see certain biopics like here's another biopic. Ali with Will Smith.
I still gotta see that one too. I haven't seen that one
yet. Without spoiling too much, even though it is a biopic and people know what happened.
Spoiling.
You can't really spoiler alert a person's real
exactly
life. But that particular biopic covered a very specific area of Muhammad Ali's life from 1964 when he beat Sonny Liston to 1974 when he beat George Foreman. And that 10-year period when he refuses to go to Vietnam, where he loses his title because he's put into exile, when he gets beat by Joe Frazier, all that stuff, converting to Islam. So that's what the portion of that they concentrated on. When I saw Miles Ahead, which is another very disappointing biopic, they focused on like a few day window of Miles Davis's life with flashbacks to him in the 60s during his second quintet days. So that's another movie that was a huge disappointment to me, especially when you have someone like Don Cheadle, who is really the only person that could have adequately played Miles Davis in terms of mainstream actors, and the fact that it didn't turn out so well. I mean, particularly because Don Cheadle was directing it and it was his directorial debut. But like I said, I don't want to get too much on a tangent, but I'm just like at a point where I don't know if I can. I totally get that. I don't know what kind of story they're trying to tell. That was one of the reasons why I didn't like the Thriller 40 documentary, because all documentaries tell a story ultimately, no different than telling
the problem with Thriller 40. The problem with Thriller 40 is it was just disorganized.
Yeah, it seemed like? It seemed like it was the first draft, and then they put it out the first draft, as is, without revising it, because but even I hesitate to say that because of this. Nelson George, who directed the documentary, has been on the record, both in print and in public, that he thinks that there are bad songs on Thriller, particularly Baby Be Mine and PYT. The fact, and it showed in the way that they were not covered so much in the documentary, and there's no analysis of Lady in My Life whatsoever, outside of Maxwell making a passing mention of it at the very beginning. That to me is egregious, especially when you consider the fact that PYT was a top 10 single. PYT was a Grammy nominated song.
And even today it's still recognized one of
it's a very popular record. And I think it was also a victim of the fact that Spike Lee did such a great job with Bad 25 and
Off the Wall,
Motown to Off the Wall, and the fact that he actually took time to talk about each song on the record.
Why did Spike Lee do this documentary? I don't understand that.
That is because the estate decided to use Nelson George instead of Spike. Spike was on the record to saying he was ready to complete the trilogy, the Quincy Jones trilogy, and the estate, for one reason or another, just decided to go with Nelson George. Granted, Nelson George's coverage of Michael Jackson is extensive.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, he literally wrote the very first Michael Jackson biographical book.
Correct. I owned it actually years ago. My mom.
He wrote the liner notes of the Ultimate Collection box set.
Right.
He's written, he wrote the Thriller book after Michael died, which is also riddled with mistakes, but I'm the last person to be talking about mistakes in print. Right. So, but my whole thing about that is like, I compare it to something like, it should have been comparable to something like the Beatles Get Back, for instance. The Beatles Get Back told a story, even though it was a documentary, it told a story. There's this great audio documentary about Thriller called The Genesis of Thriller that Damian Shields did. And that did a great analysis of each song on the album. And it touched upon the stakes, the fact that they had very little time to record it, that they were coming under the gun in terms of trying to hit their deadline. The fact that that was not mentioned at all in Thriller 40. The fact that Quincy scrapped 4 songs on the original version of Thriller to replace them with PYT, Human Nature, Lady of My Life, and Beat It, and ultimately. And the fact that they had to remix the album in 8 days because the first mastering sounded so bad. Those are things that would have enhanced a story, a narrative that people could have understood. Like, that would enhance people's listening experience to Thriller to know that it was made under that much pressure. Yeah. Not just the pressure of following off the wall, but literal pressure of meeting a deadline. So that was a really big fumble. And yes, just the editing and the way that it was in and out of different orders. I just can't begin to understand why anyone in that camp would watch that from beginning to end and think that it would be okay to release it as the final product.
They would. They'd be okay. They'd be okay because we'll watch it because it's Michael Jackson. We're gonna watch it.
Exactly. You made this great point earlier in the podcast. To casual fans, Thriller 40 is amazing, particularly because of that behind the scenes footage. Yeah. But to people like you and me, it's like, dude, it's like you made the documentary bad on purpose. And this is not like to call Nelson George a hack or anything. I don't think he's a hack at all. He was one of my biggest inspirations as a music journalist. But this documentary, it isn't good. It's not. And it's unfortunate because there was so much potential for this to be a great documentary. And to segue back to what you're talking about with the biopic, I pray that the biopic really captures Michael's humanity. That was one of the great things about the MJ the musical. Is the fact that
my mom saw it. She said it was amazing. She cried.
It's great. It's not just a regular jukebox musical. It really, really, and I tackled this in my review. It really does a great job analyzing the psychological effects that Joe Jackson had on Michael Jackson. That's really the foundation of that musical, is how Joe Jackson influenced his son, good, bad, and ugly. And that can't be understated in this documentary, because ultimately, as much as Mike, and this is probably the thing that led Mike to doing certain things, is because he saw Joe and he looked in the mirror, not just in terms of his face, but his soul. He knew that he was probably more like Joe than any of his other brothers in terms of
he carried his name. He carried his name, crying out loud.
Yeah, he carries his name. He's Michael Joe Jackson for a reason.
Right.
That's fate. Yes, Michael, he resented his father. It took a very long time for him to forgive his father for the way that he treated him. But
he did. Yeah.
But he knew his father, but he knew what the bigger picture was. And he bought into it more than any of the other boys. And I think that ultimately is why he rose to being as famous as he was. Danielle Smith, the great writer, when she was in the Bad 25 documentary, she said the discipline that was instilled in Michael, for good or for bad, from the time he was a baby, is illegal to replicate in today's world. And that's one of the reasons why no one will take his place, because the training regimen that he received can't be replicated. That's why Janet Jackson is waxing 20-year-old female singers at age 57 on tour.
Same thing.
Because of the discipline and the attention to detail that, she was subjected to. People talk about, is Taylor Swift the next Michael Jackson? Like, no, the next Michael Jackson was Janet Jackson. So, you know what I'm saying? So if you can't even compete with that, and she's in her late 50s and she's still outperforming people who are half her age, then I don't know what to tell you. But to get off that tangent, the biopic, I'm cautiously optimistic about the biopic. I like the casting a lot more than I expected to.
And I think having someone that has a personal connection to Michael and his nephew Jafar does help the humanity aspect you're saying.
It does help the humanity.
Because even before they announced this, we said, I remember seeing Jafar years ago perform with his dad and perform and saying he sounds like Michael, and his mannerisms are very Michael-ish too also.
Yeah, but that's just a Jackson mannerism. I mean, they
right,
care
true,
a lot
true.
That's a lot of Catherine Jackson stuff.
But Jafar does have a lot of Michael ticks, I call it.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe that. Michael ticks.
Right.
Yes. And I feel like because they have someone who was that close to Michael playing Michael, that they're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to play this role if you're going to portray my uncle in this way or in that way. Right. Because a lot of these writers, like they feel like they have to mention the allegations, or they'll even go further and act like Michael was found guilty, which he was not. Whenever they talk about him, and when people talked about MJ the musical, they didn't talk about the allegations, even though the allegations did not come up in the natural timeline of the musical. The musical ends in 1992. The allegations didn't happen until a year and a half later. So, like, what are you talking about? The Thriller 40 documentary. They don't talk about the allegations. It's like, dude, 1984 is when it stops. So, like, what are you talking about?
The people who do that have an agenda.
Well,
that's
course.
Why.
And it's unfortunate. It's like, we have to make sure that we say for the record that, look, no, dude, he was found innocent. If you want to be a Leaving Neverland truther, then
right ahead.
Fine, go ahead. Like, here's what I'll say about that, just real quick, because I don't like talking about this. If you're a person that watched Leaving Neverland and you took it at face value, then you wanted to believe that he was guilty. Yeah. But if you watch Leaving Neverland and then know everything about what James and Wade, particularly Wade, did that was dishonest and that, contradicts everything he said in the movie, and don't watch things like Square One and don't listen to the testimony of those people, if you still believe, then fine. At least you looked at both sides and still decided for yourself.
For me, it's easy because for me, it's even easier for me. And I have a little more of a skin in the game because I have friends of mine in Square One who have been friends for 20 something years, who were featured in the documentary that told me these things 22 years ago. Like Josie, the girl, she was on this podcast 2 years ago. I've known her for 23 years. She told me when she was going to school with Jordan Chandler that she was going to school with Jordan Chandler in 2002. Yeah. So everything she said is truthful. She told me this in 2002.
Exactly.
The girl Jen, who I'm still close with to this day, on the cell phone, who was subpoenaed in trial as well too, in 2005. Everything she said is factual. When she was with Michael in Miami, when the documentary came out with Martin Bashir, do you know whose house she was staying at while that was going on? Mine. Because Michael was staying at a hotel nearby where I was living at the time.
Exactly. It's like
Florida.
It's like if you're not going to, put the facts in, or put, like, they say one thing, but it's like James said that he was abused in the train station. I'm like, dude, the train station didn't even exist until
like
years
2-3 years
after you were
after.
gone. So, like, what are you talking about? Wade says, "Oh, I burned the original Thriller jacket," when you don't have the original Thriller jacket. It's just so many things.
You know what's sad about this, the whole thing too, is that the R. Kelly documentary was actually more fair and balanced than this one.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say that the fact that Surviving R. Kelly was more fair and balanced than Leaving Neverland should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
The fact that on the second and third season, when he's found guilty, and they say, "Listen, if you still want to listen to R. Kelly, be my guest. We're not going, you shouldn't feel bad about it. A lot of people can't put that away, and that's okay." And the fact that they talked about the fact that he had been abused as a kid, and from people in his family and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it was as fair and balanced as it was, even though there's a lot of damning things that is R. Kelly's fault because he documented his own abuse. The fact that that was more fair and balanced is insane. I mean, like I said, Leaving Neverland was a hit job. It really was. And when I went into it, I had to try, and that's the other thing. I went into it with an open mind and thought to myself, okay, as much as I love Michael Jackson, I have to be open to the possibility that maybe what they're saying could be true. And I looked at every side from watching that documentary, watching Square One, understanding all of the court cases that got thrown out because of the inconsistencies of the stories between James and Wade, particularly Wade. The fact that the allegations started when Wade was denied a job choreographing a big Michael Jackson tribute show. The fact that he was shopping a book that no publisher would take, that when he was making these accusations. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you cannot take those things in consideration, at the very least, regardless of whether or not you think he's innocent or not, then I can't respect it. If you can look at every side and think he's still guilty, then that's fine. But if you don't look at every side and don't think he's guilty, then I have a problem. And that goes the other way around too. Because even though I think he's innocent, there's enough proof that he's innocent. Even though I believe he is innocent, at least I did my due diligence. I also have issues with people who blindly follow that don't do the same due diligence.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why Michael is even still revered now after the fact, is because the fans did their due diligence, and they let people know what the issue was.
Social media has been very kind to him, actually, because you and I, close to the same age. I've been a fan of Michael since I was fucking 2 years old, because my mom was hardcore. Still is to this day.
Yeah.
I went through the years of 93 and 2003 and all that. And you didn't have the pushback because the media controlled the narrative. Whatever MSNBC and Fox News said went. And you took it for face value, and whether or not you followed the trial or not. But Michael, I'll tell you, man, Michael Jackson fans are, I'm not trying to be biased here, but I see it based on my history of covering sports, covering other things of that nature. His fans are the most dedicated, but yet also the most knowledgeable of any subgenre I've ever covered.
Yeah.
They have memories for fucking years and years, and they remember names. Oh, no. You said this shit about Michael years ago, and this is wrong, and this is wrong.
Oh, yeah.
That has saved his legacy. His fans have saved his legacy, not the media, because you can't say, oh, well, the media gave him a pass. No, there's been no celebrity who's been bullied more and treated like shit more in the history of this of culture that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can't say he got a pass because he got thrown through the fucking ringer. It led him to his death, honestly. Let's be real about it.
It did. It really did. And the fact that the fans held him up is the reason why his legacy is still intact.
Right.
Because trust me, if people really thought that he did the way people think R. Kelly did it, there's no way there would be a MJ the musical. There's no way that because that musical is not only consistently selling out for the past 2.5 years, but it's on tour in America. It's going to have a production in Germany. It's going to have a production in London.
Yep.
None of that would be the case if people really believed that he was guilty. If there would not be a Michael Jackson biopic if people really believed that he was guilty. That's the God's honest truth. And don't give me the whole he had money. Harvey Weinstein had way more money than Michael Jackson. Bill Cosby probably had as much money as Michael Jackson.
Yep.
And yet they still were convicted because they actually did do what they did, and a court of law found them to be such. Same thing with R. Kelly. Court of law did not find Michael Jackson to be guilty.
Yeah, because once you put it into actual evidence, once start playing on with kid games here and put it and do adult work. Oh, wait a second. Okay, this is all fun and games, but what the fuck we doing here?
The FBI, who found a way to get Fred Hampton convicted for allegedly stealing an ice cream truck, they could have found something on Michael if they really wanted to. 10 years of investigations, nothing.
Yeah.
And if the FBI can't find anything on you, then I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. All right, one more thing to get you out of here.
Okay.
This has been a great pod. I've been really enjoying this. A lot longer I thought it was going to be, but I'm cool with that. Trust me. 2024. What tours are you looking forward to seeing?
Ooh, this is a good one.
I got a few I'm going to mention in a second.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. Some are tours, some are concerts. I'll keep it brief. Herbie Hancock has a concert at the Hollywood Bowl this upcoming August. Last year was the 50th anniversary of his 1973 album, The Headhunters. I wrote a retrospect about that for thegrio.com. And he is getting together with the original session players of that album, which became a band unto themselves later on, the Headhunters. The original players on that record are getting together, with the exception of Paul Jackson, who unfortunately passed away.
Right.
But Harvey Mason, the original drummer, Bill Summers, the original percussionist, and Benny Maupin, the original saxophone player.
Okay.
They're all going to be playing with Herbie and doing that record. And Paul Jackson is being replaced by Marcus Miller. And I can't think of anybody that would be perfect to replace Paul Jackson, who was a great bass player.
Marcus Miller's
God rest his soul, than Marcus Miller. So that's in California at the Hollywood Bowl this August.
I'm dying to go to one of these days. You been there before?
I have not been to the Hollywood Bowl before.
That setup is so sick.
I would love to go. That's a great reason to try to make my first trip to the Hollywood Bowl. I know Hiatus Coyote is going to tour at some point this year. They have a new single that just came out this month. That's amazing. Can't wait for their new album to come out whenever that's going to be. But I know they're probably going to hit Brooklyn. Here where I am at some point, so I can't wait to see them. Usher is going to be hitting the road this fall.
I just saw that. He's coming out here in I think October.
Yeah,
down here in South Florida, not Miami.
He'll be in New York, I think in September. And
MSG, right? MSG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last but not least, the Harlem Festival of Culture. Last year, for those of you who saw the Summer of Soul documentary, that was a Harlem Cultural Festival of 1969 that was documented by Questlove.
That was a Questlove documentary, right?
Yes.
Right. I still need to watch that. Fuck.
Yeah.
I need to watch that. Yeah.
You definitely have to watch that. It won the Oscar, even though people don't remember because that was the slap category.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's a great film. So they reprised the festival and brought it back. Unfortunately, they canceled the festival for 2023 literally at the last minute because of all of the issues with the air in New York City.
Right. The thing, the air from Canada.
So they had some because of the wildflowers. They canceled it literally hours before the first day. I pray that they bring it back for 2024. And if they do, then I will be there with bells on, because
Nice.
Belle Biv DeVoe was supposed to perform. Tiana Taylor was a headliner. I was really, really looking forward to it. And so I hope that they bring it back and I get to go this year. So those are my choices. So what are some of the tours that you're looking forward to?
Well, I missed Pantera last week, unfortunately. Pantera's first tour since they come back together.
Mm-hmm.
Janet's coming this summer. I've never
seen
live.
Her. I saw her at Madison Square Garden last year.
I will finally see her for the first time in my life. I've seen Michael before, never seen Janet.
That was my first time. I saw her in last May at MSG. Excellent show.
Yeah, she has come down here about 3 times in the last 5 years, and I've missed her every time.
Yeah,
I told my wife I am not missing the show.
That's a great show, and Nelly's going to be opening, so that will be another.
So I have that coming up. My wife wants to see Incubus in September again. We may go to that. I've seen them twice already. They're going to be performing their entire Morning View album, the entire album on that show, that tour. So I want to see that.
If ever tomorrow means I'll be there. Okay, that was my song.
Yeah. So that's another one I'm looking forward to. Usher, you mentioned, is coming down here. I want to see that show. We found out yesterday that Lamb of God and Mastodon's coming down here, but I don't know if I make that show. I've seen Lamb of God 8-9 times already. Mm-hmm. So but to me, after Metallica, they're my favorite live band to watch. And I saw Mastodon last year. Actually, they were fantastic. But I don't know if I make that show though because of scheduling conflicts and stuff. So, Lance Worset in June. I want to see that show with my wife. We're planning on seeing that one. And there's one more. Oh, I might go see Hootie and the Blowfish this summer. Actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see them live. Actually.
Yeah.
They come out here.
I'd be interested. It'd be interesting to see them because I know that they still tour.
Same members, right? The same members.
It's the same foursome.
Right. If you had told me in 1996 I would go see those guys live, I said, hell no. In 2024, hell yeah, I'll see them. Why not?
Yeah, why not? I remember not even 10, 15 years ago, I saw Huey Lewis in the News at Coney Island. And it was one of the best shows. I went all that whole summer.
No.
Just off the hook. I was like, look, as long as they sing Back in Time, I'm good. And and they sure enough did. And I was probably one of the only black guys in the audience, and I had a ball. They sang Under the Boardwalk and It's All Right by Curtis Mayfield a cappella. It was a great show.
I love Huey Lewis, man. I am a huge fan. So
prayers up for him because he's been losing his hearing.
Right. Oh, this is hearing his voice.
It's his hearing. He's been losing his hearing.
Okay.
And that's been affecting how he can sing on stage.
He hasn't toured in a while, has he?
Yeah, because he talked about it in interviews that his hearing problems are getting worse as the years go by. So his tours are fewer and further between because of it, because he can only perform when his hearing is at 40 or 50% or whatever it is.
I gotta tell you, they're my 80 sweet spot, man. They hit my 80 sweet spot. Huey Lewis in the News hit my 80 sweet spot.
I'm not a compilation guy, but they're on my short list of great compilations and greatest hits packages. I would go to a concert based on someone's greatest hits album.
Yeah.
I would go to a Tears for Fears concert, no questions asked.
For the same thing, for some reason, right? Yeah.
Based on just their greatest hits or just based on songs from the Big Chair. But Huey Lewis, they have hits Perfect World.
Yeah. This is it.
If this is it.
It is. Yeah.
Doing It All for My Baby.
Right.
Back in Time, Power of Love. I Want a New Drug, aka Ghostbusters. But yeah.
That's a new drug. Won't make me sick. I love that song. Oh, they have great hooks, man.
Oh yeah, great hooks. And that's another band that doesn't take itself too seriously.
No, that's the thing. Every time I think of Huey Lewis, you know why I always take Huey Lewis in the 49ers. Joe Montana. I remember Joe Montana was close to those guys for a while too. Also, so every time I think of Huey Lewis, I think of the Niners all the time. So the '80s Niners anyway, the dynasty '80s Niners, of course. So
yeah,
who wins this weekend?
Ooh, it's gonna be tough for Kansas City to. It's gonna be tough to be Kansas City. I know it's a rematch, but I don't know if San Francisco's got enough. It really depends on how Christian McCaffrey performs.
Yeah.
He's going to have an all-time day, and Brock Purdy's going to have to like not be a game manager. He's going to have to really like show up and go toe to toe and make big plays the way that Mahomes makes big plays. If they have any chance of winning, even though the game last year was relatively close. But if Christian McCaffrey has a big game, they have a chance. But I just think that Kansas City is playing with house money. They've got a lot of great confidence. They're going for their third Super Bowl win. This is their fourth time in a Super Bowl. Yeah. So they're playing with a lot of confidence right now.
They got Taylor.
And they have Taylor, but I don't know. They might lose points because of the whole Travis Kelce, invented the fade.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid, dude.
I swear. The New York Times, man, like they really
all for clicks, man. They need clicks.
Like, I don't even get me started. You know what I'm saying? Don't even get me started.
I'll say as much, and I know we didn't want to cover sports here, but San Fran can't fall behind like it did against Detroit and against Green Bay last 2 weeks. They cannot fall behind.
Definitely.
You ain't. This is Pat Mahomes. We ain't doing that here.
Yeah, because that can only. Yeah, that you can only do that, but so many times before you start running out of luck.
Especially against that team.
Yeah,
you know
especially
Detroit and Green Bay, one thing, but against that team, hell no.
If Detroit had been to the NFC Championship last year and then got back there again and had that lead, they win that game. But I think because of the fact that it was the first time getting that far, they just didn't know how to hold that lead.
Right.
And the same thing with Green Bay, because Green Bay had no business getting to the divisional playoff. So you know what I'm saying? So I think it's still shocking that Detroit couldn't hold on to the lead to a certain degree, but I like rematches. I'm a sucker for stuff like that, because I just like backstories when it comes to sports.
Yeah. Well, I want Mahomes to win. I'm moving for Casey to win. I hate the Niners, so.
Look, it's easy. I root for the black quarterback. I try not to get too. That's what made last year so tough, because it was because Jalen Hurts.
I hate the Eagles. I can't do that.
I love the Eagles. They're my second favorite team behind Buffalo, which is really. Look, we've been. I think that we can win the Super Bowl as long as we don't.
We mean Buffalo? We mean Philadelphia?
Huh?
We mean Buffalo or Philadelphia? Buffalo?
No. If Buffalo can get to the Super Bowl,
it
would be great if they didn't get to play Kansas City.
I mean, it ain't like those games weren't close. I mean, the game was close this year. The game was literally 13. You were 13 seconds away from beating them 2 years ago. I mean, it is what it is, man. That they just have your number. It is what it is. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
It should be a good game though. But I want Casey to win, obviously, because I love Mahomes, Andy Reid, those guys. So it's that simple for me. So
yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Matt, great job. You have anything you want to plug? Where are you writing these days, man? Are you writing the same places? Or adding more to the docket?
I'm just trying to right now. I'm going to be working on talking about the Apollo Theater.
Okay.
And some of the stuff that they're doing. Okay. I'm going to be talking this weekend. I'm probably going to write a piece on my new Substack about the 20th anniversary of Kanye West and College Dropout.
Oh, new Substack. Interesting.
Yeah, I have a Substack.
I have one too. I never hardly use it, but I have one. I've had one.
I have one article, but I'm going to try to fill it up. So, I'm just working on that right now. But yeah, look for my Substack, Define Media.
Yep.
And
I'll add it tonight too. I get off this.
Yeah.
Definitely. So great job, man. And I think on Twitter again at
at Headphone Addict.
Yeah. I love that name, by the way. I love that name.
Yeah.
So great job, man. That was awesome. Almost 2 hours of podcasting time. That was excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.